everything alright? You're not in uniform.
What? What? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing something.
You haven't trimmed your beard, and my god, there's no product in your hair. What's going on?
I haven't slept in 2 days. Somebody on the Discord, they mentioned tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills, and I've gone down a rabbit hole ever since.
Tattooed alien... what? What the f*** is that?
Exactly, I know. I didn't think it was a real TV show. I thought I dreamt it up while I had the flu or something, and then I started wondering about other TV shows that I completely forgot about. Goldblum, I've seen some things.
Yeah, Sue, we're overdue for another psychotic breakdown.
Welcome back to Space Castle, where our continuing mission is to explore all things nerdy in the universe. I'm your Captain DT, and for the past 2 days, I've been scouring the internet, unearthing repressed childhood memories over shows I forgot even existed. And I bet you forgot them too.
And I imagine we're all better for it. Are you sure you're ready to make the universe a slightly worse place?
I mean, Madam Web has already come out in theaters, so I feel like it's all moot after that.
Fair point.
To reintroduce this first insane TV show that most people have forgotten, we have to go back to 1985. By the late 80s, Disney was a daytime cartoon show machine, cranking out legendary hits like DuckTales and Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers. But prior to becoming the after-school powerhouse we knew and loved, they had a few near misses. Foremost of which might be a show only kids in the 80s would have the foggiest memories of: the Wuzzles. Set on the fictional Isle of Wuz, the Wuzzles tells the story of a bunch of hybrid animals who go on adventures and learn life lessons. Like how finding somebody else's baby and deciding to keep it is wrong. No, I'm serious. In the very first episode, a character named Ellaroo, a split between an elephant and a kangaroo, finds an egg and keeps it in its pouch until it hatches. And then he refuses to return the baby to its mother.
Wow. Look, I'm a mom.
Meanwhile, the show's villains learn of the baby and decide they're gonna kidnap it and sell it for parts.
Did you say a baby Brahma bullfinch? Do you know what they pay for Brahma bullfinch feathers? We're gonna be rich.
Because you can't kidnap a baby that's already been kidnapped. That's double jeopardy, kids. The series was created by Fred Wolf, who I've spoke of before as being one of the producers and chief directors of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The man had his hands in animation all over the 80s. It was absolutely insane. The cast of characters on the Wuzzles included Bumblelion, a hybrid bumblebee and lion, Moosel, a half moose, half seal, Hoppopotamus, who was half rabbit and half hippo.
He's Anonymous? Damn you! You gave him the easy one!
And the aforementioned baby kidnapper, Ellaroo. The voice talent included such notable voice actors as Brian Cummings, Joanne Worley, and the legendary Alan Oppenheimer, who voiced Man-at-Arms and Skeletor in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. This show about animals that have apparently been fucking brundle-potted into freaks of nature debuted on CBS at the 8:30 a.m. Eastern time slot on exactly the same day that Disney also debuted Gummy Bears on NBC. Which I always thought was kind of a weird move, given that kids who would be interested in either show would either be headed off to school or daycare at that time of day. But what do I know about marketing a successful series with hopes of merchandising and syndication? And boy, was the Wuzzles built for merchandising. The show only lasted 13 episodes, but I still remember all of the stuffed animals, books, puzzles, board games, and more. I myself had a Bumblelion stuffed animal, even though it more closely resembled Wilford Brimley than it did the character on the show.
Diabetes.
So what happened, and why doesn't anybody remember it? Well, like I said, the show only lasted 13 episodes before CBS canceled it. It was in direct competition with Gummy Bears, which became a pretty huge hit for Disney, and the shows were airing on competing networks at the exact same time. ABC ended up picking up the Wuzzles and reran the episodes at a different time slot, but the show was never renewed for a second season. Many people actually believe the show's cancellation was tied directly to the untimely passing of cast member Bill Scott, another animation legend who created, produced, and directed, and voiced Bullwinkle J. Moose on The Bullwinkle Show and The Rocky and Bullwinkle Show. Scott was something of a hero, having served in the U.S. Army's very first motion picture unit, and he helped found the Hollywood chapter of the International Animated Film Association. Many people believe that Scott's passing left an unfillable void in the cast of the Wuzzles, and the show ended with the passing of one of its core teammates. Disney has largely forgotten about the show themselves, only casually airing it on the Disney Channel and Toon Disney over the years, but it's currently not available for streaming anywhere, and as far as I know, it's never been made available on physical media either.
Yeah, Sue, I just want you to know that I appreciated that Brundlepot reference.
Thank you. I thought you'd enjoy that. Next up, we're traveling to 1994 to a show that kicked off this whole bizarre odyssey and nearly cost me my mental health. You see, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had debuted the August of the previous year, and it was an absolute goddamn juggernaut. Toys were flying off the shelves as fast as stores could stock them. Everybody in my 4th grade class was sporting the colors of their favorite Ranger, and everybody wanted a piece of the pie. Several knockoff shows of much lower quality, which honestly says a lot because Power Rangers itself was mostly just recycled footage from an old Japanese TV show, popped up in hopes of making a little money too. Shows that brazenly ripped off the premise of Power Rangers in feeble attempts at merchandising action figures to kids, just like Mighty Morphin did. Not least of which, or least of which, depending on your opinion, was tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. A show about teenagers also in Southern California who also transform into spandex-clad superheroes to fight an evil alien invader who also wants to conquer the Earth. The show aired on the USA Network from 1994 to 1995. During the first episode, we're introduced to the lives of 4 rich American adolescents who are tricked into the secret lair of a mysterious being who then tattoos each of them without consent and orders them to do his bidding. Holy f***. That sounds like human trafficking.
I like this right here.
So, the teenage warriors, dubbed Galactic Sentinels, they transform into gigantic versions of themselves and they fight giant monsters. If they're overpowered, they can combine their strength into a single powerful entity called Nitron, which is definitely not a complete and total ripoff of the Megazord, except, conceptualized while cross-faded on jungle juice and cheap weed. The production values are somehow far worse than Power Rangers, which again was built entirely for profit because it just dubbed over old footage from another existing show, effectively having no production value itself. The costumes for TTAFFBH are bad, the monster in each episode is bad, and the action is slow and clumsy. There's not a whole lot in the way of redeeming qualities. And honestly, if anything was ever built for an I can do that but better mindset, it was Power Rangers, but laziness begets laziness, and literally anything that tried to dethrone the king was instantly brushed off. The show ended unceremoniously after its first 40-episode season, which I imagine cost a total of $275 in a couple of weekends to produce. And probably failed to make that back in profits, honestly. I seriously cannot even remember seeing tattooed teenage alien fighters merchandise in stores when I was a kid. Power Rangers was just too massive, and only self-knockoffs like Big Bad Beetleborgs, created by Power Rangers masterminds themselves, Chaim Saban and Shuki Levy, and airing on the exact same network as Power Rangers to try and hold kids' attention spans, ever stood a chance. Tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills is not available anywhere for streaming, and I wasn't able to find it anywhere for purchase either. You can find episodes chopped up into multiple pieces on YouTube, but do you really want to? I mean, this is one of those shows that's best left forgotten forever. Until some asshole YouTuber digs it up again and resurfaces all your associated childhood trauma. You're welcome. And finally, a show that I actually liked as a kid, but no one else seems to remember. Premiering in 1996 and ending well before its time in 1997, Space Cases was a science fiction series produced by CNR Films in Canada for Nickelodeon Productions. The show was created by two notable gentlemen. The first is award-winning comic book writer Peter David, who had a 12-year run on The Incredible Hulk and also wrote for titles like Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2099, and Aquaman. The second of which is Bill Mumy, who started out as a child actor playing Will Robinson on the classic TV series Lost in Space, and who would go on to be a TV writer and showrunner as he got older. Oh, and he also starred on this show called Babylon 5. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but I only bring it up because my good friend Seth would disown me if I didn't mention it. Space Cases tells the story of a bunch of misfit cadets who can't help but screw up in school and keep having their potential careers as space explorers derailed by mischief. They're basically being held in detention when they see a mysterious unidentified spaceship roll up to their Academy space station. They decide they're going to take matters into their own hands, boarding the ship in hopes of becoming heroes by making contact with a brand new alien race, and the ship ends up being somewhat sentient and bonds with each of the kids who accidentally launch the ship into deep space. They cross paths with a tear in the fabric of space then, which sends them and two adult instructors from the Academy on a 7-year journey to try and get home. Along the way, each of the kids learns about themselves, their value as individuals, and their value as a team. The show actually tackles subjects like racism, mental health, the tribulations of adolescence, and coming of age. The show draws a lot of obvious inspiration from the shows that Bill Mumy grew up being a part of.
This can't be happening! We're lost in space!
As well as the journey to get back home aspects of Star Trek Voyager, which I also think is pretty underrated. The show had a budget of next to nothing, borrowing props and set pieces from other shows filmed in the area, but it had a lot of heart. It was weird and goofy and silly, but pretty rad, and it just never found a following. Walter Jones, who you'll recognize as one of the original 5 Power Rangers, leads a cast including pre-stardom Jewel State, Christian Eyre, and Rebecca Herbst, all of which are whom still active as actors today. The show also included appearances from legends like George Takei, Mark Hamill, Robin Leach, and many others. Jewel State left the show after 1 season, heading over to star in a show called Flash Forward for the Disney Channel. You see, Flash Forward had been picked up while season 1 of Space Cases was in production, and State would star along with Ben Foster, who is an actor who by all rights should be a massive star. Like seriously, that dude is great. I love him in everything he's in. And it would set State on a career path that would lead her to become a beloved TV star herself. Nickelodeon pulled the plug on the series after its second outing, choosing not to renew the show for a 3rd season. And leaving it on a cliffhanger, of course. According to Bill Mumy, they were given permission to shop the show around and try and find another network, but were just unable to do so. As it currently stands, Space Cases is not available for streaming, nor can you buy the episodes in physical format. Every episode is actually available on YouTube, though, at a reasonable resolution considering the year it came out. Aside from that, the show is largely wiped from the collective consciousness and the internet itself. Aside from SpaceCasesTV.com, a delightfully 90s era website that hasn't been changed since it was originally developed and formatted for 12-inch CRT monitors. The site also contains links for a grassroots campaign to petition Nickelodeon to bring the show back, a campaign that's apparently still been going since the early 90s. You guys remember when online petitions actually felt like they meant anything? There's also an address to write letters to Herb Scannell, who was the president of Nickelodeon at the time. If you're somehow still compelled to try and bring Space Cases back on the air, write a letter and see what happens. Maybe you can also ask about all the other f***ed up shit that was happening at Nickelodeon at the time. And that'll do it for this episode of Space Castle. As always, it's our continuing mission to explore all things nerdy in the universe. And as always, we want to give a shout out to our amazing Galactonaut crew at patreon.com/spacecastleshow. Their support and generosity keeps the Space Castle adrift, and their ideas and feedback on this topic helped make this video what it is. So blame them. What are some other crazy shows that everybody seems to have forgotten? Leave a comment down below and let's keep this conversation going.
Yes, I've got one.
Okay, shoot.
A family comedy that aired on ABC in 1997 called Teen Angel, yes.
I've never heard of it.
It's about a teenager named Marty who's been hanging out in his best friend Steve's room. Steve dares Marty to eat a rotten hamburger found under Steve's bed. Marty f***ing dies right there in front of his friend, oh yes, leaving a wake of trauma and guilt. Yes, and then Marty comes back as Steve's guardian angel at the behest of God's cousin Rod, played by Ron Glass from f***ing Firefly.
What? I mean, this was a comedy?
Yes, Marty's friend Steve killed him by making him eat rancid food, yes, and then Marty somehow gets punished and sent back to Earth to care for his friend who f***ing killed him in the first place. And then, Sabrina the Teenage Witch shows up as a guest star. The end.
What the fuck?